Hours later, the dawning sun cast a ray of light into Bacon's face. He stirred and blinked, relieved that he was no longer in prison. The last thing he remembered, he'd been in Foxy's bed, fucking the shit out of her. But now, he was somewhere else. A feeling of euphoria washed over him. Suddenly, he realized he was finally in his home. The home that he busted his ass for. The home that Red disrespected. The home that he was taking back. Even after the talk with Foxy, he knew that he still couldn't allow Red to get away with everything that she had done. He planned on getting revenge, but he knew that it would just take time. Until then, he knew that he had to get his shit together.
Nothing more dangerous than a legit nigga.
He said to himself.
They're the ones that get away with all the shit.
He had planned to work for hours to remove any trace of Red's presence in the house. The first task was to remove the blood-stained carpet from the study, and the second, would be to go through the boxes that he peeped through earlier. But unfortunately, his stomach had its own agenda. The gumbo he'd eaten last night at Foxy's decided to make an impromptu visit. Bacon dashed to the bedroom, peeling off his clothes just as the cramps began to kick in stronger. He barely missed the toilet seat when he sat down, completely naked as his rectum began to involuntarily expel the contents of last night's dinner. Ew. Sweat formed on his forehead. Since his bowels took longer to evacuate than he liked, he reached over and turned the shower on. Maurice Clarence pulled up to the French Mediterranean-style home that he had bought from Red and admired its elegance from outside. Maurice was blessed with the ability to ball like no other, which took him from the shady life of poverty to a life of unlimited income. At 26 years of age, Maurice had the life that most people wanted. His NBA contract alone was in the high seven figures, but that was nothing compared to the many endorsements that he received. He was one of the NBA's most ghetto superstars. Controversy surrounded him everywhere he went. He walked as briskly as he could to the front door to avoid any unwanted attention. What he really wanted to do was get inside, sit down, and ice his knee. Early in the presentation, a collision with an opponent had resulted in a torn ligament, forcing him to sit out the year. With him, his team had the opportunity to go to finals. Without him, well, the entire team was sidelined. At first, Maurice was upset about the injury because he wanted to play. However, it was all good. No matter how long he was out, the money would still be coming in. Putting the key into the lock, he turned to look at the neighbors' homes. Maurice smiled. The peace and the serenity of the area instantly soothed his mind. He turned back toward the front door, turned the key, and entered the home. Right away, he noticed the boxes in the living room and peeked inside. He mused.
I thought she would have I thought she would have had all her stuff moved by now.
Fuck. Okay. As he walked to the kitchen, he passed by the den.
What the fuck?
He exclaimed, his eyes focused on the deep crimson blood that was now soaked into the carpet. Alarmed, Maurice walked swiftly, opening the doors to various rooms, looking for anyone hiding in the house. He wasn't afraid. He used to live in the Brewster Project, so he could handle his own if he need be. He stopped in his tracks at a faint noise, and he looked up toward the ceiling. Silently, he began to make his way up the stairs to find out what was going on.
Goddamn.
Bacon grunted, feeling better after using the toilet. Finally, he gathered his composure, kicked the bathroom door shut, and stepped into the shower to take care of his hygiene. Bacon finished showering and turned off the water. The knob squeaked as he turned it to the left to stop the flow of water. He stepped out, dripping water on the thick, thirsty carpet, grabbed a towel from the linen closet, and wrapped it around his torso. He walked toward the mirror and wiped the steam away with his hand. Turning to the side, he flexed a few times and admired his physique until he heard something creak. He automatically reached for his gun, but he wasn't armed. He looked at the stainless steel towel rack and lifted it off of the attachment.
At least she ain't changed this shit,
he said to himself about Red. He stood behind the door waiting to swing. Maurice looked down at the carpet as the floor beneath it creaked. He continued to creep steadily. The sound that he heard earlier had ceased. As he tiptoed upstairs, he saw clothes trailing down the hallway. He followed them, and they stopped at a door to his right. In the air, he could smell soap. He put his hand on the doorknob and turned. Bacon watched the doorknob turn, and the doorknob began to open slightly. He saw something black jet out in front of him and swung the bar down hard, but a strong brown hand caught the bar mid-strike. The men came face to face with each other, and both glared.
Who the fuck is you?
Bacon spoke, giving the intruder his most deadly-sounding voice.
I should be asking you that.
Wait, where was I? Maurice replied with an even more menacing scowl. He kept his hand firmly on the bar as he sized up Bacon. Just as Bacon attempted to jerk his arm back, the timbre of the intruder
Give me one good reason not to crush your cranium with this pipe.
resonated in his mind with the familiarity. His eyebrows rose as he turned his face sideways. Bacon looked up at the man who was 8 inches taller than him.
Reese?
He called out.
Reese, is this you?
A smile spread across both men's faces.
Nah, it can't be.
Isidore Jeffries and Maurice Clarence had grown up in the same Brewster projects. At 13 and 14 years old, the way of survival was hustling. There was no other way. Although Isidore was more street savvy and cautious, Maurice tried to follow along just to be part of the in crowd. From the time that they were young boys, there was something about Maurice that Isidore liked. Maybe it was his skillful way of handling the Nillas when they played street ball, or maybe it was because he showed promise in getting out of the ghetto. But what he did know was that Maurice shouldn't have been hanging around him. One night, after Maurice and Isidore whooped up on some older cats in a fierce game of 2-on-2, Isidore collected some major grip and started on the way home. But not before taunting their competition. As they walked home, they ducked into an alley to divide up the money. Before they knew it, out of nowhere, the 2 older dudes that they just defeated appeared.
So you want to talk shit?
The taller one said to Isidore.
Man, y'all lost. Fair and square. It ain't my fault y'all can't ball.
Isidore continued to tease.
You.
The shorter one said to Maurice, angry that he had embarrassed him.
Why you got all that blood on your shirt?
When Maurice looked down, the short man pulled out a pistol. Isidore knew what that meant, but Maurice was clueless.
Reese, run.
He yelled and dived in front of his friend when the gun fired. A painful sting ripped through Isidore's leg as he hit the ground, but not before he retrieved his burner.
Don't do it, man.
Maurice shouted.
Give me one good reason.
Isidore growled and then released a barrage of gunfire on the 2 men. The men went down instantly. Isidore looked to his right and saw Maurice running down the alley at record speed. Even way back then, Isidore knew that Maurice had a future and didn't want to mess it up. That was why he had protected him, even if it meant taking a bullet himself. 2 days later, Isidore went to Maurice's house to learn that his parents had moved the family immediately after the incident. Isidore was crushed because he didn't get a chance to say goodbye to his friend. Bacon looked at the man who stood before him. He'd always felt like a big brother to him and was glad that he'd made it out of the projects alive.
Go downstairs while I put my clothes on.
Bacon suggested.
We talk when I come down.
While Bacon was dressed, he wondered if Maurice was still in the NBA or if he had fallen victim to a dumb decision like Michael Vick. He knew that he had the skills and definitely the height. Watching sports was a luxury in the joint. Many prisoners preferred football and boxing over basketball. They called basketball a bitch sport because there was no real contact.
My nilla done came up somehow.
Bacon said as he pulled up his socks. Although Maurice had grown several inches, matured in the face, and obviously worked out, Bacon would know that voice anywhere. He never forgot the timbre of it. Within minutes, Bacon joined Maurice in the living room, purposely avoiding the den.
So how'd you find me?
Bacon questioned.
Half naked upstairs?
Maurice joked. They both laughed.
But seriously, I heard something, so I wanted to go check it out. I understand that, but why are you in my house? Your house?
Maurice raised his left eyebrow.
I just bought this property. Bought? I never.
Bacon paused. Now he knew why all the boxes were packed. Red was not only moving, she sold his house right up from under him.
You never what?
Maurice always felt that there was something fishy about the sale at closing.
That bitch.
Bacon muttered.
What bitch?
Maurice questioned.
That bitch up in my shit, got nails all up in my crib, then she gon' sell it? Oh shit. I should've blew her ass away when I had the chance.
Bacon picked up one of the boxes and hurled it across the living room. Purses spilled onto the floor along with some of their contents.
Calm down,
Maurice suggested. He walked over to the mess and picked it up.
I ain't calming down, man. This bitch took everything I had. Then gon' lie about me. I left her fat, and now I ain't got shit.
Maurice looked through the junk and found numerous IDs, all in different names.
This the hoe right here?
He held out a photo license.
I swear I'm a... Hey, hold up, man. All this over a broad? Not just a broad. She was wifey. She was supposed to be holding the nigga down while I was locked up. She fine and all, but that's exactly why I ain't settling down.
Maurice admitted. Both men docked.
Look, man, a bitch is a bitch, but a scandalous hoe is like a rabid dog. It's fucked up what she did, but you need to get your shit together and calm the fuck down. I see you still hot-tempered.
Maurice thought about something.
Hey, me and a couple teammates going on an all-male retreat in a couple days. From the looks of it, you may need it more than we do. All-male retreat?
Bacon questioned as he looked at Maurice.
You want that DL shit? Fuck you, Nilla.
Maurice laughed when he realized he could have used a better term. Trust me.
Trust me. You'll love this retreat. Hoes at your beck and call.
Maurice confirmed with a sly grin.
So, you down?
Bacon nodded.
I'm down.
Wait.
I'm down.
Yeah, that's done. Chapter 6. Following her botched kidnapping attempt of her boyfriend Mikkel's baby, Terry was taken to police headquarters, 1300 Balbian or whatever, where she was processed and booked. Afterward, she was strip searched and given jail attire. Not only was she humiliated by the way her body looked, she felt violated in the most inhumane way possible. The thought even crossed her mind that the female officer who searched her was a lesbian because she seemed to have been enjoying the job a little bit too much. The walls of the jail made concrete and painted steel gray. Were made of concrete and painted steel gray. You couldn't understand any conversations because the echoes of the voices seemed to bounce back and forth off the walls. It didn't really matter all that much what the conversations were about though. Terry was in jail for a foolish mistake and it was all beginning to settle into guilt and regret. Once placed inside the dorm-like cell, she found an empty bottom bunk to lay her thin mattress and blanket. Although the evening meal was served, Terry covered her head with a blanket and closed her eyes. Holding back her tears of grief, it seemed like she had just gotten to sleep when her name was called for the morning court run. Terry appeared before a judge at the 36th District Court for her arraignment. She was dressed in prison orange with shackles on her wrists and ankles. She stood stoically before the judge while the charges against her were read: attempted kidnapping of an infant and aggravated assault. Those words tore through Terry like a knife and she cried uncontrollably. If convicted, you could serve up to 10 years in prison, the judge said to Terry. Have you secured counsel? Terry didn't have to hear the rest of what she said through her tears and unintelligible mumbles. Miss Washington, I'm rescinding my decision to allow bail in your case. Terry heard that. Why? She screamed. Your erratic behavior concerns me. Please don't lock me up. Please. The judge carefully watched Terry before she delivered her final words. I think you're a detriment to yourself and possibly to others. Bail revoked. The judge called for another case. Terry was whisked off to Wayne County Jail until her examination day. Once in her cell, Terry knew that she was utterly alone in her situation. She couldn't shake the memory of the way that Red had glared at her and shook her head in disgust and then turned away when she was handcuffed in the back of the police car. Red was my dog since grade school. She acted like she never did shit wrong. How she's just gonna turn her back on me and act like I don't exist? Terry's anger was now getting the best of her. She thought Red would have at least come to the police station to explain to the officers that the situation wasn't as it seemed. Whatever happened to staying down for your dog? What Terry failed to realize was that Red thought of her as a charity case, and everything she did for her was not without purpose. Terry lay down on the bed. Terry lay down on the hard bunk and tried to cover up in 1-inch thick state-issued blanket. You want to choose sides? Then choose. But for your sake, I hope that you choose the right one, she mumbled as she thought of Red's betrayal. Covering up the best she could, Terry went to sleep, her heart filled with dread for what lay ahead over the next couple of days. Would someone come to see what was happening with her, or would she in fact be left for dead? After Terry's initial meeting with her attorney, she had gotten a court order for a complete psychiatric evaluation. Terry underwent a series of tests and was assigned a therapist. Terry knew that she wasn't crazy, but if playing crazy would give her a reduced sentence, then so be it. During the second counseling session, Terry began to realize that the sessions could be beneficial to her. It felt good to open up to somebody who wasn't biased, who had the ability to help her work through her issues that were clearly identified. A timer rang, indicating that Terry's session was now over. Over so soon, Terry said, somewhat exhausted. Yes, the therapist confirmed. An hour can go by like that. She snapped her fingers. The therapist walked to the door and opened it, indicating to the guard that it was time for Terry to leave. Thank you, Terry said sincerely as she stood up and began shuffling toward the door. The therapist then smiled slightly and nodded. Oh, and Terry, remember, it takes time. The first step is always the hardest, but I know you can do it. Terry nodded to acknowledge her statement, and then she turned and began to follow the guard through the maze-like halls. Terry couldn't step to the beat of her heart because it was racing. She was anxious because it was time to meet with her counsel. She wanted to see what their plan was before she went before the judge at her examination hearing. She had only met with her briefly once she arrived, but Terry could tell that she was well seasoned in the court of law. As Terry played follow the leader through the hallway, she reflected back on the 2 counseling sessions. During the first day of counseling, the therapist sat quietly, jotting notes, not saying a word, but allowing Terry to get everything off her chest. What the therapist noticed was that Terry never not once mentioned Mikkel's baby after it was born. She seemed stuck on the relationship as it was prior to then. On the second day of counseling, things were different. Well, Terry, it seems like you've been down a rough road. Yes, I have, Terry said, wiping the tears away. She had just told her what happened the last time she was physically with Mikkel, and how he put her out of the house, naked. If Mikkel and I didn't argue around Christmas, he wouldn't have gone to Vegas. He would have never gone to Vegas, and we would still be together, she told her. I can understand why you feel that way, the therapist said. However, let's focus on one person right now. Puzzled, Terry stared at her. Let's focus on you. Terry blew her nose and held the wet and snotty tissue in her hand. But Mikkel is the one who did this to me, Terry protested, blaming Mikkel for everything. It's his fault. The therapist walked from behind her desk and leaned against in front of it. As she formulated her words carefully, Mikkel did not make you responsible for his actions with Kara, so you cannot make him responsible for your actions. Mikkel did not force you to have sex with him, Terry. Mikkel did not make you go to the hospital. Mikkel did not place his son in your hands. Mikkel did not do that to you, Terry. She paused for a minute and pointed her finger. You did. A chill ran through Terry's spine while she reflected. She recalled chasing Mikkel around the whole time. She couldn't hold a job because she was too bent on making sure Mikkel wasn't fucking around with no other bitch. Her children began to lose respect for her because she neglected them for Mikkel. She couldn't cart them around town while following up behind him, so she left them at her mother's house for more than she should have. Terry looked up at the therapist, and her eyes filled with salty tears. The first phase of the healing process, Terry, is identifying that you and only you are responsible for your own actions. Once you come to terms with that, then you can move to the second phase. What's that? Terry questioned in a scared, childlike voice. The second phase is to sincerely apologize to Mikkel and Kara. It won't take away what happened, but it may ease some of the pain for you, for all of you. Once that's done, then you move on to the third phase. Terry looks at her with eager eyes. The third phase will come in due time, and that is for you, Terry, to forgive yourself. This will be the hardest because you'll have to live with your decisions. No matter how hard we try, we cannot take things back that we do. Terry thought back to the therapist. She wanted to take her advice on beginning the healing process. I had heard that Mikkel was seeing other women, but when I asked him, he denied it, and I believed him. Why? Probably because I wanted to. I never had luck with men. They all took from me and left me with kids that they don't want to claim. But Mikkel was different. He accepted my children and me. Because of that, I gave freely to him. Terry closed her eyes and continued to talk. When I learned that he got Kara pregnant, it felt like I can't describe the pain. It hurt so bad. She felt a tear cascade down her cheek. Again, I didn't want to believe it, even though she confirmed it. I let my insecurities push him into her arms. Terry was shocked at her admission. She realized that she was beginning the healing process. Terry, what about the baby? Did you intend to hurt him? Chaz, Terry said cautiously. May I call you that? Yes. Chaz, I'm a mother. I've gone through some labor pains that will have you on your ass. They both laughed. The baby, she paused. I would never hurt a baby. Mine, Mikkel's, anyone's. What were you going to do with him if you didn't get caught? Honestly, I don't know. But I do know one thing. I wouldn't have hurt him. That baby should have been a part of Mikkel and me. If anything, I guess I just wanted to hold him, Terry admitted quietly. Terry could tell by the way the woman's eyes glazed up and the quiver in her throat that she was moved by her story. Unbeknownst to Terry, Chas understood what she was going through. She stood by her man when he didn't have shit. And once he became something, another woman came along reaping all of the benefits that she should have had. Chas slid some papers toward Terry. I want you to look through these and tell me if these accounts are accurate. Terry raised her hands to alert the representative that she was unable to use them. Chas then moved her seat to the same side of the table as Terry, and they looked over several reports. It was the police report and the statements made by Kara and Mikkel. Terry shook her head and sighed after she read Kara's statement. Chas made note of the exaggerations that Terry pointed out in Kara's report. The second report was information from Scott Memorial Hospital about the baby. Terry exhaled loudly in relief. The child had suffered no permanent damage from the fall, despite being dropped and suffering through a coma. The third report looked foreign to Terry. What's this? She questioned. Blood work. Chas said nonchalantly. She cleared her throat and then spoke. Terry, I need to ask you a question. Please be honest. Terry wondered what else the lawyer could ask that she hadn't already revealed. How did you feel when you and Mikkel broke up? What? Terry stared at her attorney like she was crazy. How did you feel when you and Mikkel broke up? Chas repeated slowly. She looked at a piece of paper with a lot of numbers on it. At first I was angry, then I got mad when the baby came. She reflected. I felt like I went into a depression and had lots of mood swings. I was sure if I didn't have kids of my own, I probably would have tried to kill myself. Terry knew for sure that she was on the road to healing, and it was now time to move on to phase 2. Chas smiled. Terry validated what was displayed in her psychiatric evaluation, a typical depression. Terry saw that written on the paper with her test results, but she had no idea what it meant. The thumping beats of Ludacris's Moneymaker awakened Sasha. She blinked, focusing her eyes on the scenery out of Blue's black convertible. Cadillac Roadster. The early fall sun was bright in the sky, but the tint on the window shielded her from the rays. The green leaves on the trees were at their deepest hue. Sasha sat up and rested her head against the custom-made headrest, enjoying the comfort of luxury. As they breezed down the I-280 east, she looked up to the left at Blue.
What's up, ma?
He said as he smiled and bobbed his head to the beat.
What's up, ma?
So it wasn't a dream, she said to herself. I really took Blue from red. She shifted in her seat. How much farther?
Shit, about 20 minutes.
Sasha laughed to herself. Nilla than they 20 minutes. Blue looked at her while she stretched and laughed.
What's so funny?
Red used to go to sleep all the time in the car. Blue reminisced on their weekend getaways.
Good old Red.
He paused before he spoke again.
She was an eager student, always willing to learn.
Sasha noticed that he reached down to his crotch and adjusted himself. I know this Nilla ain't getting hard thinking about Red when I'm with him. Excuse me? Looks like she just
perfected her game.
Blue veered off into the New Jersey Turnpike, I-95 North. They were not too far from their destination.
You shocked me though,
He admitted, looking at Sasha quizzically.
You didn't strike me as a bitch who like pussy. Pussy?
Sasha yelled angrily. Oh, hell no. Blue ignored Sasha's protest.
Well, the way you ate her pussy, I almost came on myself. You see how I pounded that ass after you got it good and wet for me?
He bragged. The memory quickly came into focus in her mind.
Get it wet for me, Sasha. Suck that pussy and get it wet for me.
Sasha closed her eyes in shame as she remembered how Red held her head, forcing her into her pussy until she came. Sasha did what Blue asked her to do, only for him to mount Red and fuck her. Fuck that bitch, Red. And if I did fuck women, I definitely wouldn't fuck a dirty ass bitch like her. Ho thinks she's all that, but truth be told, she ain't shit. Sasha snapped. She didn't like Blue disrespecting her the way he did.
Slow your roll, ma.
Blue warned.
Regardless what you say, you can only respect the game. It was you who had your face in a pussy, not the other way around.
Why you glorifying that dirty bitch? You just another Nilla she played. The car finally came to a stop in an exclusive residential neighborhood in New York. Sasha tried to look out of the window to take in her surroundings, but Blue turned towards Sasha and grabbed her chin with his thumb and forefinger.
Looks like you got a lot to say, but right now, your mom gonna get you in a lot of trouble. Now, you call me. That means I talk, and you shut the fuck up. I ain't got no problem giving you anything you want, but I ain't got no problem with knocking you on your ass either.
Blue moved his face within inches of Sasha's.
It's your choice.
With that, he released Sasha and exited the car. Sasha fought back the tears that formed as she rubbed her chin. She knew that what he said was right. She had no employable job skills, and she knew this. The only thing that she knew was being wifey. And with Red still in Blue's mind, she wondered if she would even ever get that title. Sasha was so used to living off vanillas and made a living doing so. It's gonna be some shit when Red finds out I'm with this Nilla, she thought. I should have got rid of her when I had a chance. Her conscience spoke back to her. That's not you, Sasha. Tell that Nilla catfish to do it himself. Then she thought, I need to do something. Because when Catfish realizes that I'm gone and Red is still alive, it's gonna be hell to pay. Sasha knew she was doomed. She had nothing. And with nothing, she knew she was shit. She made her decision. She got out of the car and obediently followed Blue. Every day that passed increased the tension between Red and Q. During the first few days, he went sightseeing, shopping, and to a local club alone. He came back late in the night to avoid Red. The rest of the week, he was gone before she woke up. He didn't want to be around her. Not only was he still mad at her, he just couldn't trust his little head to be rational. Red was appreciative of the downtime because it gave her body a chance to heal, but most of all, it gave her the opportunity to read Bitchnella Snitchnella without being questioned by Q. When she saw it at the airport, she acted like she was just browsing through the magazines, but instead she lifted up a copy of it. Red now understood what the hype of the book was all about, and it gave her enough ammunition to get Bacon back for what he did to her. The beginning of their second week, Q opened the door to Red's room carrying a tray of sliced mango, pineapple, and other exotic fruits, along with fresh squeezed orange juice and whole grain toast. Red stirred when she heard the sound of footsteps approaching.
Hey, sleepyhead.
He said softly. Red glared up at him and then threw her head up in the air and turned back to him. The attitude he was greeted with let him know that she was still upset that he turned down her sexual advances for you. But she'd get over it, he thought. In spite of her cold shoulder, Q set the tray down in front of her, sat on the edge of the bed, and turned her to face him. He hand-fed her a piece of fresh mango. At first, Red refused to open her mouth, but Q persisted.
Come on, Red. You know how you love mango.
In spite of her pride, you can't get these voices. In spite of her pride, Red finally gave in and opened her mouth. The mango was scrumptious, a richer taste than the one she's eaten in the States. What are you doing up so early? Red glanced over to the clock. It was 6 in the morning. She chewed and swallowed the right piece of fruit. She waited for Q's response.
Let's go sightseeing.
Q suggested eagerly.
I bought you some clothes.
He got up and retrieved the bag that he had left at the door. Red sat up in the bed and watched as he pulled out several swimsuits, shorts, halters, sundresses, and sandals out of the bag and placed them on the bed.
I was thinking we could go snorkeling and horseback riding and take a tour to...
Red put up her hand. Stop, she said forcefully, causing Q to step back. First you act like you want to be with me, and then the next you don't. You reject my advances, and now you're acting like nothing has ever happened. She glanced at the sun that was now in full view over the horizon and looked back at Q. Under normal circumstances, I'd even go with how you've been treating me. But look at me, she said, pointing to her face. My face is fucked up. I cannot go out looking like this. Q understood what she was saying, and she was right. Her face was still disfigured, so he didn't press the issue any further. He walked over to Red, kissed her on the forehead, and left. Red watched as Q closed the door behind him, and a lump formed in her throat as she got out of the bed and walked into the large glass patio door. It's beautiful, she said, sliding the door to the right and sauntered out onto the patio. Red gazed toward the semi-calm waters and tried to count the various shades of indigo. Looking at the white sand, she noticed how untouched it looked, as if nobody had ever set foot on it. The palm trees held hammocks for rest and relaxation. Looking up at the clear sky, which was sprinkled with light white clouds like soft cotton, she saw seagulls fly and land on the water, flapping their large wings, making sounds that only seagulls knew. Red realized if she weren't in paradise, this was the closest thing. With tears forming in her eyes, she went back inside and instantly became angry. She walked past the full-length mirror on the way to the bathroom. An ugly image caught her attention. The black and blue marks were still there, and the splint was beginning to get dirty from the constant wear. I hate you, Bacon. I hate you. While Red fumed in the bathroom, Q took a walk on the beach. Walking and enjoying the sand under his feet, he asked himself, why can't I get her out of my...
Why can't I get her out of my system?
He continued to hike along the beach. The warm waters washed ashore, covering his feet and then retracting. He was so consumed in his thoughts that he didn't want to hear his cell phone ring. The caller was persistent and called again. Q snapped out of his thoughts and answered it without looking at the caller ID.
Yo, what's up?
He said smoothly on the phone.
Nilla, where your ass at? I'm hearing shit that you got shot at. And then I get a fat ass check delivered at the crib from you. And you ain't been answering your phone. Tell a nigga something.
Zeke demanded.
It's a long story, but everything is cool. Nah, nigga, who I gotta stop out here?
Zeke said, seriously.
I can round up the old crew and handle business.
Q thought about it for a minute. He decided to get a location on Bacon.
You heard of that nigga Bacon? Bacon? You mean that nigga that bitch Ray used to fuck with? Yeah, that's him. I'll see what I can find out, man. He been gone a minute. Well, he out. What?
Zeke said, shocked.
I know his ass was home. I'll see what I can find out, though.
Q became silent while he put his hand on his back pocket. He retrieved his wallet, looked inside, and humbled through his cash.
Hey, can you Western Union me about 10 grand? 10 grand?
Zeke raised his voice in disbelief.
What the fuck you need 10 grand for? I'm running low on funds. Red, she with you? Man, don't start. Like I said, it's a long story and I'll tell you about it when I get back.
Q didn't want to hear what Zeke had to say. Then he remembered why Zeke was so bent on Red.
I know she fucked you over, but don't worry, man. Red will repay you.
An uncomfortable silence consumed the cellular airwaves until Zeke finally spoke up.
You'll have it within an hour.
He ended the call before Q could say anything else.
Yeah, she will pay me.
Zeke repeated as he drove to Western Union.
One way or another.
Chapter 9.
Come here, baby.
Mikkel said, flashing his sexy smile as he laid naked across their king-size bed. Terry crawled into bed at his command. Mikkel was met with warm, soft kisses on his toes, and her tongue traveled upwards to the tool that she longed for, his dick, expertly, just as he had always liked it. She took him in and bathed his erection in warm saliva. They locked eyes as she served him. Mikkel's dick seemed to take on a new life as he watched her take all of his length and width. When she thought he couldn't get any harder, he surprised her with even more girth. Mikkel threw his head back and grabbed the back of her head with his left hand as he began to feel the gurgling, the tingling sensation inside his balls. He tried mightily to suppress the nut that he wanted to release. It just wasn't time yet. He looked at her as she slowed down her pace and removed her mouth. Their energy spoke volumes as she removed the towel from around her body and straddled him. Mikkel suckled as hungrily as a newborn baby at her breast, while her hands explored his muscular chest and sculpted arms. She eased down on his shaft, and they began to rock into the rhythm of the motion that only they knew. She knew how to work her pussy to the fullest, to pull out everything he had to offer. As they both were nearing an explosive climax, Mikkel leaned forward, forcing her back on the bed. His left arm automatically brought up her right leg as he could no longer control himself.
You feel that dick, baby?
He grunted with each down stroke. Yeah, Daddy, I feel that shit. Ooh. It feels so... She screamed in the rhythm to his thrust.
You ready for this? You ready for this?
His thrust became more forceful as he was unable to hold back. Okay, so I gotta redo that.
You ready for this? You ready for this?
His thrust became more forceful. And he was unable to hold back. After what seemed like a series of never-ending orgasms, he collapsed on top of her. He felt a nudge on his shoulder. Mikkel, you alright? She nudged him again. Mikkel. Mikkel woke up from his sleep and saw Kara looking back at him as she clutched her Bible.
Huh?
You've been tossing and turning for a while. Are you okay? Mikkel was out of breath, and his face dripped with sweat. The memory of the dream began to subside. Hold on, wait, you guys. Let me get myself together. Mikkel was out of breath, and his face was dripped in sweat. The memory of the dream began to subside. Mikkel felt wetness upon the sheet and began to fidget his legs to hide the evidence of his wet dream.
Yeah, I'm okay. Sorry if I woke you.
He yawned. A wail came through the baby monitor, loud and clear. I'll go get him. Kara told Mikkel. She got up out of the bed and walked towards the nursery. Man, Mikkel said to himself.
What the hell?
He hurriedly changed his boxers and then trotted down the hallway towards the nursery in an attempt to clear his memory. Almost 2 weeks had gone by since Terry tried to kidnap their newborn son, and Kara was trying their best to settle into their new home, her new role as a mother and a girlfriend. Ever since the incident, she went to church every single chance that she could, and she prayed daily for the health of her son. Out of guilt, Mikkel took over the diaper change once he got to the nursery. Kara stood next to him, watching her two men.
What?
He asked quizzically.
What is this?
He rubbed his hand over his half-naked son.
Kara, why is he so greasy?
That's holy oil, Mikkel. I blessed him. Mikkel reached for a wipe on the changing table. He heard a thud and saw a bottle on the floor.
Kara, this shit ain't no damn holy oil. This some extra virgin olive oil.
It was the closest thing I could find, baby. Don't worry though, I prayed over it and the Lord is blessing our little angel right now. Mikkel shook his head and put focus back on his son. Kara loved watching him care for their son. She was as skilled as a marksman, but had the gentleness of a baby's touch. He was as skilled. Had the gentleness of a baby's touch when it came to his namesake. The once scrawny newborn was now beginning to take on a healthier look. His skin tone was beginning to even out. His curly hair looked full. He still had the same eyebrows almost connecting that made him unmistakably Mikkel Jr. The chubby cheeks he now sported was surely a sign of a healthy baby. Mikkel was pleased with his progress.
There, all done,
he said to little Mikkel.
Here, baby, take care of this for me.
He handed Kara the soiled pamper. Kara shook her head, smiled, and playfully tapped Mikkel in the head with the bundled up diaper, and then she disposed of it. Fatigued, they both walked back down to the hallway to the bedroom. Mikkel absent-mindedly slid into the bed and pulled the covers back for Kara to join him. Instead, she assumed the prayer position on her side of the bed. Please forgive me for all of my sins and all of those who have sinned against you. As we know not what we do, she said silently. After that prayer, she spoke out loud. Lord, thank you for the blessings that you have bestowed upon me. Father God, please continue to watch over my family, and we will forever serve you for the rest of the days of our life. Amen. Now for real, amen. A calm washed over Kara as she slid into the bed next to Mikkel and went to sleep. Kara blinked, and her eyes finally focused on the red LCD readout on the digital clock that was on her nightstand. Her eyes grew large as she read 8:49 a.m. She had slept for 8 hours without being disturbed. Oh my God, the baby, she said out loud. She picked up the nursery monitor and held it as close to her ear. She didn't hear anything. She kept the monitor inside the crib so that she can hear the tiny baby breaths that Lil Mikkel made, but now there was nothing but silence. Kara's heart raced as she got out of the bed quickly walked out of their room, down the hall towards the nursery. Kara's heart trotted doing Olympic-type somersaults in her chest. Her palms turned sweaty and she began to hyperventilate. Once inside the nursery, she looked inside of the crib. Her eyes widened and her mouth formed a big O. Mikkel! She yelled frantically as she turned around and rushed out of the nursery. Mikkel! She ran back down the hallway, past the bedroom, past their bathroom, another right down the other short hallway which led to their kitchen. She stumbled into the living room and stopped in her tracks as she exhaled. A small tear dripped from her worried eyes. In front of her couch lay Mikkel and their son, swaddled, lying on top of Mikkel's chest. They were both sleeping peacefully. If anything were a Kodak moment, this would be. Having been scared out of her mind, you guys be patient with me, thinking that her baby had died or was once again a victim of kidnapping, didn't sit well with Kara. Now her reaction was setting in. She went to the bathroom and sat down on the toilet. Damn, I gotta get myself together. As she said as she felt the warm liquid escape her bladder. After a quick shower, Kara stood at the basin, wrapped in a plush burgundy towel. She opened the medicine cabinet to retrieve her toothbrush and toothpaste. There was a bottle of Vagisil, which wasn't hers. Kara scowled. I've been here for almost 2 weeks and it still doesn't feel like home. Everywhere I look, this type of shit is in my face. Lord, please forgive me. She tossed the bottle into the trash and it landed with a small clinking sound. She looked at the towel that she was wrapped in and immediately thought about Terry being wrapped in the same towel. Everything in the apartment reminded her of the past. Nothing was hers, and she was sure that Terry had something to do with how it was decorated. Shit ain't even coordinated. Kara began to visualize the decor throughout the apartment. Angrily, she stormed out of the bathroom and bumped into Mikhail.
Baby, what's wrong?
He inquired, stating her panic. Nothing, she barked.
Baby, for real, what's up?
He grabbed her arm gently as she tried to walk past him.
You've been uptight the last couple of days.
Mikhail held her in his arms and smoothed her hair with his right hand. As she allowed him to embrace her, Kara's angst began to subside. Mikhail, I thought it would be easy living here, but it's not.
What you mean?
Everywhere I turn, I think about her.
Who?
Mikhail asked innocently. Terry! She yelled like he should know and pushed away from him. I'm sleeping in the same bed that she slept in. I'm using the same towels and wiping my ass with the same toilet paper that she used. You have Cottonelle, but I got Charmin. It's too many memories of the woman who tried to kidnap our child.
I understand, Kara, I understand, but you've been over here before. What's different now?
The difference is we were just fucking.
Oops.
Having sex. She looked up towards the ceiling and asked for forgiveness. And there was no real idea that we'd be together. You weren't with me the majority of my pregnancy, but that's changed. We're in a family now. She wanted to get with Mikhail from the first time she saw him, but she let it pass because she knew his girl Terry. But Mikhail's reputation was known all over town, and so was his sexual prowess. Terry had only validated it when she gave a very graphic stroke-by-stroke account of his skills one evening when they were all chilling at Red's house. Tired of all the no-good nillas she's encountered, Kara began to make herself known to Mikhail, just in passing. Although both were attracted to each other, neither had acted on it until they ran into each other in Vegas and succumbed to the temptation of what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. Kara knew that Mikhail had broken up with Terry right before he had left for Vegas. However, once they returned, things were different and Kara was left looking stupid. Terry and Mikhail were back together, and she, unbeknownst to her, had a baby brewing. When Mikhail learned of her pregnancy, he was pissed, cut her off, and denied the child. And because of this, Kara fucked around with some of the nillas that she kept on the side for extra ends. The looming pregnancy was something she didn't think about seriously. At first, she thought out of sight, out of mind. However, the choices that she made would be ones that she would have to live for the rest of her life. Whenever they would run into each other, Mikhail acted like he hated her. She played along with his fucker hoe leave a hoe ways. Kara couldn't lie to herself though. She had feelings for him, and she played her cards just right. She didn't hound him, and he came right back to her, just like she knew he would.
You're right. We are a family now. But what you want me to do?
Kara swiftly walked to the living room as he followed behind her. I want to redecorate, she said with a smile. First, I want to paint. This room will look great in lavender with white trim. Then we could get rid of all of this, she said, pointing to all of the furniture. She walked into the bedroom. And see? Close your eyes, baby, and visualize, she said excitedly. We need another bed. I have one in mind. Kara was talking a mile a minute. The chest is old and I can make...
Whoa.
Mikhail protested.
We don't need anything new. I just bought all this stuff like a little over a year ago. There's nothing wrong with anything in here.
He was becoming irritated. Why can't he get over it? She asked herself. Is Terry still on his mind? Is this a way to hold on to her? What about me? Kara studied the expression on Mikkel's face. She sighed deeply, trying to formulate her words. Mikkel looked at Kara and then walked toward the bedroom window to peer outside.
I don't know, Kara,
As he turned around, she dropped the bath towel she had wrapped around her and walked toward him slowly. You don't know what, Mikkel? She stood up on her toes and kissed him.
We can't,
he protested. Kara brought up his hands to her breast. They were so swollen and heavy, but Mikkel couldn't resist the feel of them. He lowered his head to taste the left breast as he gently massaged the right with his hand. Not minding the release of breast milk, he lapped it up happily as if he needed it for nourishment. She reached down and felt his manhood peeping out of the opening of his boxers. Kara lifted up her left leg and placed the flat of her foot on the windowsill, right behind Mikkel, and then she took his penis and ran it along the crack of her pussy, letting him feel how moist she was. Not caring how long it had been since she had given birth, Kara was going to use what got him away from Terry, her pussy. Make love to me. Mikkel picked her up and carried her over to the bed.
You sure it's okay?
He asked, against his better judgment. Yes, I'm sure. She reassured him as she guided him inside. Although awkward at first, they found a groove they both enjoyed. Mikkel was so glad to be back inside of Kara's warm crevice, and she was glad to accommodate his needs. 20 minutes later, they lay back on the bed, spent and out of breath. Mikkel, I'm sorry, Kara said quietly. It was wrong of me to ask you to get rid of your stuff. It's just a little hard to live behind another woman. Not only another woman, but a woman who hurt our son. That's it. She lowered her voice to a whisper. I'll get over it. Kara wiped a fake tear from her eye. She wasn't over that shit. Mikkel watched her. He could see how much living in Terry's shadow was bothering her.
There's no need to apologize. I should have taken care of this way before now. I know we can't erase the past, but if redecorating is what you want to do, then we'll do it. Go get your clothes and I'll get the baby ready. Looks like you got a job to do.
Kara smiled as she layered her kisses all over his face. That was easy. Out with the old and in with the new. Thank you, Jesus. He smacked her on the ass as she jetted away to change, hoping that he was doing the right thing.